So let's just go on.
How does the scientific establishment deal with this result? By muddying the waters with scientific gobbledygook. Wikipedia says, in the above discussion, the rotation mentioned is a rotation with respect to an inertial reference frame. Since this experiment does not involve a relativistic velocity, the same wording is valid both in the context of classical electrodynamics and special relativity. How on earth can it be valid in both theories?
Can't.
It clearly proves that the ether exists because the speed of the light is controlled by the ether, independent of the rotating table and mirrors.
So that is why you get the one hand where the people say the ether exists, because they have to say it has to have physical properties. That's why they say it's not physical, but it's manifest. This is the whole reason why they say it's manifest. It's because when you look at this and you try and explain it using the ether, then it makes sense because of the propagation of properties. But is this proof of the ether being physical? I don't think so. I just think it more shows denial that people, how can I put it? It shows that the earth is not moving. That's what this shows, the effect. But is it because of the ether? That's debatable.
This Sagnac
In alchemy, Aether is air.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying earlier. I mean, it's the same as air. It's just everywhere. I mean, doesn't matter where you go in reality, there's always air somewhere. Even in a vacuum, there's air. So, who knows? I mean, some people have the belief that ether is just God. It's God omnipresent. That's all. I think it's different beliefs to everyone. So at the end of the day, the ether is just actually a belief because it's not scientifically possible to prove it. Because I think it's more of a, how can I put it, in a supernatural type of form, if you put it that way.
Problem is, we're trying to quantify something that's unquantifiable. You know what I'm saying? It's like trying to count all the beads of sand on a beach, right? I mean, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But at least sand on the beach is physical. You actually have something of substance to be able to test. With the ether...
Right, this is even worse. This is even more difficult.
Yeah, you don't really have substance. You just have a belief that it's there. I mean, like the Sagnac, you can observe it and you can affirm the consequent that that's the reason for what you're seeing. But it's not actually proving that's what you see because of that. You just make an assumption that's the reason. So...
How about air that has energy moving in a direction through it? Like, that's how I look at Aether. How does that sound to you?
Makes
like
it
air
interesting.
with energy moving in a direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when you also have in a vacuum, you have different acceleration values. You never know. Could just be pressure.
It's like the alchemists were pretty on point with their description, if you ask me, with the air thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could just be pressure, and that could be the ether. That's why you have different acceleration properties and altitude, because of pressure. Therefore, relative density works because of pressure. Pressure could be the key to everything here.
As the plane turns,
it's
the change in the...
Kind of like atoms are like a philosophy too, really. Atomism or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it's true, because atom is not actually proven. It's a concept that actually works. I mean, if you use the concept of atomism, that's what everything is based upon. It's quite coherent, but is it actually proof that atoms exist? No. You can piggyback off the theory
of atoms. The ether that way.
Yeah, and ether is exactly the same. You can piggyback off of the belief that the ether is existing, and you can work off it, but it doesn't actually make it real. Just like atom, it doesn't actually mean it's real.
Exactly.
It's like time, when the time's a concept. How much of our things today is based on time? But it's just a concept. It's not physical. You have your timeline that you can have your duration measurements.
Oh yeah,
and stuff.
like when they try to run a conceptual medium through the scientific experiment or the scientific method, like
Yeah.
time, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's a control, so you can have a duration. Now they say it's physical, but it's not. Time is not physical. That's why they're never going to have time travel. There's no such thing
Yeah,
as
it's
time
conceptual.
travel. Yeah, it's very simple.
Fringes are translated into a change in the direction of the plane that then registers on the cockpit compass. In addition, I have received comments from 2 scientists complaining that they were never taught about the Sagnac experiment. The first...
That's actually true. Were you ever taught about the Sagnac experiment and stuff in school? I never knew about it. Something that...
Yeah. Very suspicious that they left cymatics out, huh?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I mean, they're very selective on what they do teach, though.
Yeah, bro, the chromatic scale is the visible spectrum, is the zodiac. All that shit's the same.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, that's why even if you look into the occults and stuff today, there's some kind of knowledge that they have, and it's all linked, because they have a deeper understanding of something that you do not get in schools. I mean, I know before I started getting to flat earth and stuff, I was also looking at the different occults and things, and it's actually interesting what you get out of it, how the things are actually linked together with their histories and the different beliefs. They might have different beliefs altogether, but they're linked with the same type of knowledge.
Well, yeah, a super long time ago, alchemy, all means God, and chemi is chemistry, so it was God's chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
If you would take God out, what do you think that means?
Yeah. It's like they're taking the spiritual and the natural world and they're trying to combine it together.
Yeah, and look at the current model we subscribe to, right? Is it not completely robbed of any spiritual aspect?
Yeah, it is actually. That's why I said even when it comes to the ether and stuff, it's got a spiritual aspect to it.
Yeah, just like atomism, that's the part they don't want to admit,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it falls under scientism actually.
After 35 years as a professional physicist with a thesis in relativity, I only learned of Sagnac's experiment last year. Another correspondent complained that his professors
We obviously
never
don't need
mentioned
to see
these
him
to
just
them.
saying
For
this all
my
the
life,
time.
I have heard the story of how Copernicus's theory came to prevail.
This was me trying to show the different magnetic properties through everything. I think this was like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like what the people believe, then it's the stars moving because of that in the ether, which is a liquid substance, you could say. But then how does it explain on Earth? Because we're not walking through liquid unless you see it as air.
You might not think of water as being magnetic, but it is. And so are graphite, aluminum, and glass. This is a new and different category of magnetism called either para or diamagnetism, and it's different from the magnetism that you're used to. You're probably already familiar with ferromagnetism. Ferro means iron. An unmagnetized piece of iron, or nickel, or cobalt, becomes a magnet in the presence of a magnetic field. The effect is strong and lasts even after the magnet is removed. Paramagnetism is a similar effect, except that it's much weaker and temporary. Aluminum is a good example of a paramagnet.
It's amazing how the different
And
properties
so is
have different
oxygen,
magnetic
which is
effects.
attracted to magnets. Here, I have a few milliliters of liquid oxygen, which sticks to the magnet. I'll explain why later. Gadolinium oxide and cupric sulfate are good examples of paramagnetic substances. Cupric sulfate is a salt that can be picked up by a magnet. Diamagnetic materials are exactly the opposite of paramagnetic. They are always repulsed. They would rather die than be in a magnetic field.
This is why I laugh when they come and say dielectric, because it pushes on diamagnetic. That means it's not going to have the magnetic properties that they're pushing for.
An important example of a diamagnetic material is graphite. This specially made pyrolytic graphite is repelled by a magnetic field. Don't be confused. This is not static electricity or eddy currents. Graphite is
Don't be confused. This is not static electricity or eddy currents. Thank you. This is what I was trying to explain to Whitsitt, but yeah, like I said, he was ignoring me, so I couldn't explain it to him. Because this is where their whole argument is based on. They think it's electromagnetism and eddy currents, but it's not. Just this alone dispels that whole notion.
Right, it's not.
Sorry?
Yeah, I agree, bro.
So this alone dispels their whole argument already that the ether is dielectric and whatever they call it, deceleration.
repelled by a magnet, always, both by the north and south end. Pyrolytic graphite is a grown crystal of flat carbon layers which maximizes the diamagnetic effect. Of course, the best diamagnets are superconductors, which at low
quantum
temperatures
locking.
provide exact opposite repulsion to whatever magnetic field is present when they're chilled. They are perfect diamagnets.
This is really awesome though.
The most famous and powerful diamagnetic is bismuth, element number 83 on the periodic table. The bismuth-powered boat sails toward the weaker magnetic fields. One way to check whether an object is diamagnetic or paramagnetic is to see how it aligns itself in a magnetic field. Diamagnetic objects like glass will rotate to avoid magnets. Here, we see that the glass is diamagnetic because it twists to get to the weaker magnetic field. But aluminum rotates into the field, typical of a parallel paramagnet.
I find this very interesting. I mean, if you had to just see this demonstration, you'd understand that there is no actual medium around it. It's literally just a field. It's all it is. So when they have the belief that the ether is this field that has the propagation, this is what brought me to first thing how it can't be a propagation medium. It's simply just a field. The field doesn't require a medium to work. The field itself is the medium.
On the periodic table, we see that aluminum has 3 valence electrons.
Sorry?
Don't they try to attribute the downward electrical whatever to gravity too?
This is what gravity is actually based upon. Well, the dielectric deceleration or whatever. That's why it's so close, entwined with gravity.
That's it, deceleration thing.
Yeah, because it's actually entwined with gravity. Because it's got the same principles and effects as gravity. Because it's manifest from a non-manifest nothing. I mean...
Right.
It's got a force from nothing. Let's put it that way. So that's why I try to work out that density disequilibrium equation that I made, and saying it's just the static potential, which is just the short way of saying you put your potential energy into it, and because there's pressure, that pressure release gives the direction, which gives the acceleration force. But yeah, it's simple. When they push in the dielectric acceleration, it's the same as them sort of saying, I know they don't agree with gravity, but it's practically the same as saying gravity because it's got the same nuances. It's got no...
Yeah, because I've heard people try to explain gravity using the downward dielectric, whatever.
Yeah, it's got the same principles, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, well, hopefully I can get Bob on sometime and we can actually talk about it, because I think it'll be quite an interesting discussion. Like I said, I'll try to contact Whitsitt on this on Discord and stuff, he's just plain out ignoring me. So I don't know. I don't know what I had done to him.
I mean, I'm on team relative density as far as the gravity thing goes.
Yeah, I mean, relative density is scientifically proven. You can literally write a hypothesis, you can have an experiment, and you can test it. With dielectric acceleration, they have to take something like magnetism, and then they have to induce a field, which is a magnetic electromagnetic field, to create the effect that they call based on the ether, which is just a hijacking of what the field really is.
It's like the pseudo-harmonium force-based stuff, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You creating a non-manifest world to manifest a force that comes from nothing. That's exactly it. I don't know how otherwise to put it.
So what does it take to understand what it means for something to be a paramagnet or a diamagnet? You have to know what the electrons are doing. Consider, for example, aluminum. We see from the periodic table that aluminum has 3 valence electrons. That's 2s and 1p. Now it's that unpaired electron that makes it a paramagnet. This unpaired electron enables it to become magnetized.
That's
and
why
it's that unpaired electron that is free to be magnetized and attracted by the magnet. But what about a diamagnet like water? Yes, the water molecule. It has all of its electrons paired. It will not be magnetized. In fact, water is repelled by a magnetic field. The electrons come to lower energy as they are moved away from the magnet.
This is also why when they say the tides and things are caused by the magnetic fields, how? It's repelled by the magnetic fields. Yes, you have the salt that is attracted by it, but you have different salinities of the ocean. So why isn't it counteracting each other then?
Yeah, it's double speak.
So yeah, they fall under the belief that we have the cathode ray and everything, you know, with a positive and a negative, and then instead of looking further to listen, let's try and link it together, they don't look further. If you just look a bit further, you see, okay, no, it can't actually work. And that's exactly what caused me, that's exactly what caused me at the end of the day to say, sorry, I can't accept ether. And that's just my opinion on it, because to me this is
I know what you mean, bro.
Yeah, this is to me much more substantial evidence that it doesn't exist than that it does exist.
In conclusion, when something is a paramagnet or a diamagnet, it tells you what its electrons are doing. In the case of a paramagnet, it has at least one unpaired electron. In the case of a diamagnet, it has mostly paired electrons.
I think maybe I could get a hypothesis going for it, maybe, but like provable, I don't know, man. Yeah, it's like a conceptual medium.
So yeah. But yeah, it's just conceptual. Everybody takes it and then they put their own spin on it. That's why nobody can really explain when you ask them what is the ether. They can't tell you because they're practically piggybacking off what the person taught them. So if you come into Flat Earth, which most people do, they come and who do they first usually see is Glowbusters, which I'm really grateful for because they've helped a lot of Flat Earthers come to realization. But because when you first come into it, you don't really know any better, you're just going to accept it as fact. If they're going to tell you about the ether, you're going to take it the ether as fact. And that was exactly with me. But being me, I do actually research the things before I talk about it, and yeah, after a while I realized it's just not. But yeah, if everybody wants to believe it, I'm not going to. I mean, heck, I could be wrong, but based on what I showed you now, what's going to be more evidence for it or against it?